Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to Small Talk. I'm one of your hosts Tamim, and I'm joined today again with my wife.
Hi everyone. So today we thought we'd actually talk about a subject that I've been thinking a lot about, and I think it's one of those ones where I guess it's very different for different couples, and it's the honeymoon phase. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to actually broach this topic is because obviously for us, the dynamics of relationships is very different. So obviously we don't quote unquote date each other. But, we're at what stage do we have that honeymoon phase? Generally, the honeymoon phase can be from 6 months to up to 2 years. But that is all dependent on the quote unquote dating stage. A lot of the times that honeymoon phase changes, especially if you're living together. And a lot of the times it doesn't happen when it's as soon as you're married. So for us, obviously, our relationship has been very different.
How so? How would you say it's been different to maybe if it was in different circumstance?
Well, for us it's different because ours is arranged. We are not quote unquote dating each other. We didn't date each other. We had 4 months.
We did. A little bit.
Yeah, technically we did, but that's only because we chose to do it that method. That method isn't
maybe you
necessarily...
need to explain what that is first of all.
Okay, why don't you explain how we did it and how we decided to pursue our relationship?
So we had our nikah in June 2019, and then we had our walima, which was pushed back to December. So we had 6 months where we were married, but we weren't living together. And that was probably our dating period.
So just to clarify, the nikah is the Islamic marriage, and we have a certificate to kind of confirm our marriage, and it's presented in front of a priest, but for us it's an imam. And the walima is a party that is hosted where we're obliged to feed however many people we want to celebrate our union.
I agree. It was a great opportunity for us, and I actually preferred choosing to do it this way. Now, you sometimes say that you'd actually have preferred it to just leave it at the nikah and not have waited so long to get to the nikah.
Not necessarily. I think sometimes 6 months can be a lot of time. I think 2-3 months is fine, but 6 months is a long time.
Yeah, but that was unintentional, and we didn't mean for it to be 6 months.
Our plan was to get married in August, and obviously got pushed back twice.
Which is fine. I mean, fair enough that, we can't, predict these circumstances. But one of the reasons why our relationship is different from the quote unquote normal standard of dating is the fact that we actually, when we first met, we had 4 months before we decided to do the nikah. And in that 4 months, we only met each other and spoke to each other. We only met each other 3 times. Yeah, we only met each other really 3 times. And then we did that one big one with the whole family. And aside from that, we were really just texting each other. And texting obviously is not the same as meeting someone, getting to know them. And when we did our nikah and we were open and we were, everything we were doing after that was halal, and it was acceptable for us to meet without my brother chaperoning us. Yes, definitely made it easier for us to get to know one another. But would you consider those 6 months the quote unquote honeymoon phase? Where at what stage in our relationship do you think we had the honeymoon stage?
No, but those 6 months were a stage of getting to know each other more. Because we were living together, I don't think you can call it a honeymoon phase, because you don't really know. I've always said you don't really know how a person is until you live with them. So I don't think there were the honeymoon phase. I think that was probably just more of the phase where we were just literally just getting to know each other more, about our interests, about stuff that we like, we don't like. So I don't think you can call that honeymoon. Maybe some people would say it, but I don't think you can call it a honeymoon phase because you weren't living together. But then do you have to live together for it to be a honeymoon phase? Isn't it supposed to be where, everything's really nice and everything's all going really well?
Yeah, it's like the super lovey-dovey stage.
Yeah, so technically those 6 months were kind of like that.
I don't know that. I would disagree. In the 3 years we've been married, at what stage do you think we had a honeymoon stage? Was it straight after we got married? Was it
What, straight after we started living together?
Yeah, like where at what stage do you, looking back over our last 3 years together, do you think we were at a quote unquote lovey-dovey stage where we were like super into each other?
Probably only really once COVID hit. Once we started, like, we couldn't go out. We were both working from home. I think the first 2 months were sometimes probably a little bit formal, because we had to be, because we're still living with our parents. So I think it was very kind of like a formal thing. And then I think it got a bit easier, no?
So for me, one of the reasons why I was really thinking about this question is because one of my friends asked me at what stage we had the honeymoon phase. I genuinely was looking over our last 3 years and I was like, I don't know that I would consider the first year of our marriage the honeymoon phase. I think we genuinely were like getting to know one another still. I don't think 6 months is a long enough time to get to know one another. So even though we had that nikah period, again, you don't know someone until you live with them. So I feel like that first year was really just us figuring out life together, figuring out how to live with my in-laws, figuring out the work-life balance. I don't think we were in that, oh my gosh, like lovey-dovey phase. I think we had moments of love while we were trying to figure it out. And I do think the second year of our marriage was probably more of a loved up honeymoon phase. And that's more because at that stage we had figured out life living together, and it was just now a time of appreciating one another, doing activities together. We went away for where did we go? We went in Wales together. We went a couple places together, and it was just really nice to be able to do those things together. But I think maybe 2 years into our relationship was when we were quote unquote loved up and in that honeymoon phase. Looking back, do you think that?
No, not necessarily.
Why not? I mean, okay, maybe it's different for you.
No,
because
we were.
Actually, it wasn't massive changes to your life.
Yeah,
it was massive changes to my life.
Well,
because I was living with my in-laws as well.
So you had more adjusting to do. So that's why it probably took you longer to
feel like we were in the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
So at what stage do you think we were in that stage though? Because I don't know.
No, I think when COVID hit the first time around.
Okay.
So that was about 2-3 months after.
After, really? Do you actually think that?
Yeah.
I don't know that I would consider that the honeymoon phase. I guess
no, because
more so because literally it was literally us. Okay, I wasn't working at the time as well, so I was at home with your parents a lot, and then when COVID hit and everyone was at home with like family, it was a big adjustment because there wasn't a lot to do during the day. And then when you started staying at home for work as well, it was like, oh my gosh, there's so many of us at home all at once. How do we balance, this out? So I don't necessarily see it as a loved up situation, unfortunately. But at the same time, in that period that we had at home together, we learned a lot about each other. We also did a lot together. We cooked together. We really were able to quote unquote figure out one another. And I know a lot of couples went through that thing of being at home constantly with your spouse was driving you up the wall, or you realize that you just couldn't do it, and that having separate lives was really important.
Yeah, I needed my space.
But I think for us actually doing that and actually diving into that so soon after we got married was great, because I do think that if we could handle COVID and lockdown together, we could handle anything.
But I think that was the people you're talking about generally where, it was becoming too much. It's probably not. They weren't probably newly married. I think because we were fortunate because we were newly married, and yes, we had spent 6 months getting to know each other, but we hadn't lived with each other for 6 months. So after you moved in, even because we were newly married, I think it made that part of it, the lockdown process, a lot more easier because we were still figuring out things that we like, things that we don't like, things that we did together, stuff like that. Like you said, cooking or even just going places.
No, I agree, but it's interesting to see that couples who have been living together for longer really couldn't figure out how to stay in one place for such a long period of time because of lockdown restrictions. Like, it's interesting to see that as much as people thought they knew how to live together, it was actually affecting their relationship in a negative way. And I don't know, I didn't feel like that with you. And I guess that is one of the reasons why we were quote unquote in a honeymoon stage, because we were able to accept and adapt quite easily to these changes because it was so soon after we got married.
True. But I don't know how many couples did have... I think the number of couples that had those problems were probably not that big anyway.
I personally don't get how you are a couple and you're living together, and in lockdown they're not the partner you'd want to be with for that whole period. I get it. Of course, everyone needs their own space, and they obviously, I guess maybe if you're living in a really small apartment, it's actually difficult to divide that space up. But I would have thought if you've chosen them as your partner or your spouse, surely if there's anyone to be in a lockdown with, it would be them, right?
You also have to think about what stage of the relation they're in. Sometimes it's where, it could be that both of them are working and they're working from the same room. They're also relaxing in the same room. So they're seeing each other 24/7. Sometimes it can be a bit too much and you need to separate.
No, I get that. Even with the space we have, I think about 6 months into living with you during this lockdown period, I was frustrated with you. And I think I remember saying, you know what, just go and see your friends for a little bit. I just need an hour to myself. Like, even though, like, we would still do stuff separately and then we'd obviously come together, I don't know, there was just something about... I guess I just needed that space. Even though it was 1 hour of you just going to see your friends or whatever, I just felt like... I think I learned then as well, because my family is an hour away. I learned then as well that actually having separate lives and meeting separately our families and friends is actually as important to keep our relationship healthy and happy. Because as much as I loved spending time with you, you became very annoying very quickly. Nah, I'm joking. You didn't become annoying. I think it was just the constant... I don't know, maybe that's what it was. It was just constantly being around each other without that break.
Yeah, remember, you're in each other's face all the time. Of course, at some point you're going to be like, I just want to be by myself, or I just want to do something by myself. And I think it's okay. It's perfectly okay to kind of have that feeling. I just want to be with my friends, or I just want to be with with my family, or I just want to be by myself. Just to take some time, take time off or whatnot.
Okay, so let me ask you this. At what stage during the lockdown period did you think, my gosh, she's just everywhere?
No, I was probably more frustrated with work than just being at home. I just didn't like working from home. So obviously certain professions you can, but I don't think my one was, is something that you can work from home. I think you have to be in classroom. But that's something, but that's why I probably got frustrated working from home and I didn't enjoy it. But other than that, I think that's the only thing that probably made it a bit more trickier to stay, during lockdown, is to stay at home and do the work. But once I was back into, and maybe that's my kind of way of having my own time, is actually being in school and working.
Yeah, I mean, I get that as well, because I do think actually when I did start working and I was working from home, I think, the whole aspect of, finding that balance was tricky. But going back to the honeymoon phase, aside from the work thing, was there any other moments in our relationship, looking back in the last 3 years, that you thought was like us super loved up and like, I don't know, quote unquote crazy about each other?
I think you're still crazy about me, fam.
I mean, we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary.
No, but to be fair, I think your experience is different than mine. But I think yeah, the first, like I said to you, that once we moved in, the first 2 months were a bit, it was just formalities because we were still, like kind of tiptoeing around, making sure that, I wasn't annoying you, or I wasn't getting in your way, and you trying to do the same thing. So that was, but maybe that's also part of the honeymoon phase where you're going above and beyond to make sure you're not in someone's way, or you're not making it more difficult for them. Because I think that's also part of being in love, is making sure that, or you do more than what's maybe required or needed to ensure the other person isn't kind of, in a situation where they might not be comfortable, something like that. So I think that's also probably part of being in the honeymoon phase, is going above and beyond to do something which is maybe not necessary, but you just do it because you just want to.
My thing with the honeymoon phase is, obviously, I feel like it comes and goes, right? Surely that must be part of it. Like, we will have...
No, I don't think...
will have issues of hardship. We will have good times and bad times,
but that doesn't mean...
But there will be moments and, like, months of pure joy and happiness, right? So wouldn't you consider that to be the quote-unquote honeymoon phase that comes and goes? Do you think it has to be called a phase? Do you not think...
No, so I don't think it necessarily goes away. I don't think it's a phase that goes away. I think you probably see it, you probably think it goes away because it just becomes normal.
Yeah, life just is...
Because, for example, like you said, it's some months it will be, or sometimes it could be really difficult. We're both going for something, or some months, or, it could be really amazing where nothing's, everything's perfect. But in both of those situations, you still really love each other a lot. It's just once obviously you're struggling, and other stage you're, everything's perfect. But I don't think that doesn't necessarily mean the honeymoon's, end phase is ended because, you're going through a hardship. I think because both people would still be in love, and everything could still be fine, or it could be, it could be hardships. But I don't think honeymoon phase goes away. I think it just, that feeling just becomes normal after a while, because you're always in that feeling. And sometimes you have ups and downs, yes.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have more of it, so you feel, I'm back, into that phase. And sometimes it's slightly lower because for whatever reason, and so you feel like, what, I'm not feeling the same anymore. But I think because it becomes a normal thing, because let's say even after 10 years, right, would you then say, what, I'm not, the two people, me and you, or any other couples, would they, unless obviously something major happened, you don't go, no, I don't really love my wife anymore, I don't really love my husband anymore.
No, but I think it's not.
And you
that.
would, no, hold on, but you'd still be dating, hopefully, once in maybe 1 month, once in a week, whatever you can, right?
No, but in the sense that the loved up situation is like going above and beyond for someone, or treating them really well, or you guys are going on like a honeymoon, or like a trip together, and you're like super into each other.
Yeah, but life changes.
Of course, but that's why I do wonder if the honeymoon phase is just a quote-unquote phase, because that phase can come and go quite easily depending on the stage of your relationship as well. Like, for you, you're saying you felt that honeymoon phase at the beginning of our marriage. I felt more like that during the second year of our marriage. So really, is it more of a personal thing as well? Because clearly for you, you were going through something very different than I was going through in the initial stages. And, at the moment, right now, do you think we're on the honeymoon stage?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I do think? I think since beginning of this year, January, I think we've been quite happy and at ease with each other.
Well,
and doing little things here and there for one another.
But that's what I mean. You would always, obviously, hopefully, everyone or every couple, husband or wife, would still go above and beyond. But it just becomes so normal because you'd be doing it for so long, or you'd be doing, or if someone does something above and beyond, but if they do it all the time, sometimes it's just become, people think it just become normal.
Yeah,
they're
it's
gonna
just
do
a
it.
habit now.
So that's why,
right?
But that's why I feel like sometimes maybe people think, I'm not in the honeymoon stage no more, because he's doing or she's doing what they're supposed to do. But technically you still are, because the person, wife or husband, is still going above and beyond. It's just because you've experienced it, you just think it's normal thing to do now. But not every couple necessarily always goes through that. And then obviously when you have family and stuff, then it changes completely, because then
you're
you're no longer, for example, the husband or the wife is no longer the priority. The priority would then be
the kids.
the
Yeah,
kids,
yeah.
right?
I
But that
agree.
doesn't again necessarily mean that the two people don't love each other. It just means, or the love is lessened. It's probably more actually at that point, because the
Well,
husband,
actually,
because if you think about it, the husband would, if once you have children or whatnot, the respect from the husband towards the wife should increase massively, because now no longer is she your wife, she's also a mother of your children, right? So the respect should go, and the love should be even more than what it was before.
perhaps, and hopefully that's the case. I mean, I hope that's how it is with
We
you.
hope so.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like, I guess then it's almost the same with like Valentine's Day. Why do we need a day to express our love for our partner, right? So I guess it just boils down to these little things that you might do to show your appreciation just ends up becoming a habit, right? It's a normal thing that you do. Say, for example, I like caramel frappuccinos, so every once in a while you might bring me a McDonald's caramel frappuccino or a McDonald's McFlurry. Now, you don't have to bring it for me, but you do it every once in a while, and it's a nice surprise to me. But you've now made that a habit, right? And I don't expect it still, but when you do it, I really, really appreciate that.
Well, that's the thing, and if if couples have little things, quirky things they do for each other, that's good. You should keep it. Shouldn't all of a sudden stop just because you've been married for 3-4 years. And the same thing with dating as well. I don't think you should stop dating each other, even though you've been married for for maybe again 10 years, 20 years, and you've got kids that are older. I think that's probably something that needs to continue. Otherwise, you don't have you don't get to, especially if you have like children. I think it becomes very difficult to then spend time each other alone, because like we said earlier, once you have children, you're no longer the priority. The children are the priorities, right? But at some points, you do have to take some time out for yourselves and spend time each other alone, whether that's going out to eat, whether that's going out, I don't know about holidays. I think with kids, you probably want to take your kids to holidays, but definitely to go out, even something basic like go and watch movies or something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
But you have to make time for it, and it's difficult because sometimes life gets in the way. We're either always working, most of us are anyway, 9 to 5. People are working. You're either working and you're coming home and you don't really want to spend time, or you just want to relax.
Or you're just tired.
And but you have to make that effort, because if you don't, then then that's when it becomes okay.
It will hinder your relationship.
Yeah, and that's when it becomes difficult. And sometimes people go through that, and sometimes people get in a really bad habit of just going through life like that, where I'm working and I just want to come home and relax. I don't want to think about anything. I don't want to deal with, the family. I don't want to deal with the wife, or I don't want to deal with the husband. So I just want to come home and relax. And then you're kind of, then you can't really be then you can't really be upset that if you got then if two people, if you go, or if you feel like you're not in love, because obviously you're not putting the effort in. And it has to be both ways as well. It can't just be the woman putting the effort in and the man's not, or vice versa, the man's putting the effort in and the woman's not. If it's not met, then eventually someone will put so much effort, but eventually they will get sick of it because they're putting the effort and the other person isn't. So it has to come from both, even if it's once in a while. But if it's not reciprocated, then I think you would get tired of it.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I guess all relationships are a give and take. Yeah, some moments you do more than I would do, and vice versa. But the effort to make sure your relationship stays content and happy is down to both parties being able to go, okay, should we do something on a Friday? Actually making plans with one another is important. Yeah, it's a lot. It seems easier said than done, actually, because it's so easy to be like, let's do something on Friday. But Friday comes around, you've just come home from work, you're knackered, you're tired, and you can easily decide to not want to go out. However, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do something at home together. So cooking a nice meal together, watching movies together. there's endless ways to make sure that, you know, you both do give each other the time. Now, because we're living with your parents, right? The whole lovey-dovey aspect isn't necessarily easy to fulfill when we live with my in-laws.
Why? Please explain.
What do you mean, please explain? I mean, I think it's quite self-explanatory. Like, you know, if I wanted to make a nice dinner for you, it'd be hard to fulfill that, because I would obviously not uninvite your parents, right? That would just be rude. But like, so like the whole champagne, you know, candlelit
Champagne?
dinner. Not champagne. Obviously not champagne. As
You
in
wanna
like
say that
champagne
again?
glass.
You might want to say that again.
So obviously if I want to do like, you know, the champagne glasses with drinks, candlelit dinner for you, it wouldn't necessarily be easy to establish, especially because we live with my in-laws, and obviously like the downstairs living area where we've got the dining table and chairs is like a, you know, a common area for everyone. So for me to like quote unquote take over, I wouldn't just do that. Like, if I'm gonna make food, then I'm gonna make it for everyone. I wouldn't just make it for you. But then, do you think then that's not me being romantic to you?
No, not necessarily. I think sometimes you have to make the best of what you have. So if you can't, then you know, there's other things. Just like, obviously, if you had your own house and all stuff and everything, and then you'd be able to do all that stuff. But there's other ways.
Do you think we're missing out by not doing stuff like that together?
Not necessarily.
Do you not think so? Because obviously, like you said, if we were living alone, you know, that stuff would be so much easier to plan and, you know, surprise you with, like, you know, a nice candlelit dinner, or, you know, just like, there's just loads of other things we could do if we weren't living with your parents. But the thing is, do you think it's quite necessary? Like, is it important in our relationship to have that time?
What, alone time?
Well, being able to do stuff like that we can't really do with
but then
your parents.
no,
around.
true, that's definitely true. But then there's other stuff that we can do as well. I mean, we've gone away and stuff, just ourselves, just me and you.
Well, I guess that's how we make up for it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the fact that because we don't live alone, and you know, we kind of have these exciting, you know, small short breaks, staycations that we've done that have helped our relationship massively.
I think those are really important. I think just having a break from the city life and just work and just the same thing every day, and just kind of going away even if it's for 2 days, the weekend.
Yeah, I think this is what I was gonna say. Like, just doing a weekend trip away together is actually really nice. It impacts your relationship a lot more than you think. And I think, you know, if you can plan it and make it so it works for both of you, then why not? Like, we've done it a couple times now, and we've just like Airbnb places in different parts of the UK, and it's been really good. Like, just to kind of have firstly that drive there, to be like excited because we're going to a different place that we've not been to together, and then actually getting there, being in the nice Airbnb, and like being able to be romantic with each other, and like, you know, like the whole candlelit dinner things, like those things are more possible.
We have them there, haven't we?
Yeah, and you broke the wine glass the last time we went.
Not the wine glass. We don't drink wine.
No, it was a Mr. and Mrs. Wine glass set that we got.
We do not drink wine.
Yeah, we don't drink wine, but it was like a champagne flute that we were, and you broke it. And so that was just before we left the trip. You like, it slipped out of your hand. I remember we were just outside the Airbnb. But yeah, like, I guess for us, those are where we kind of try and make up for the fact that, yes, we don't get to do as much of this quote unquote lovey-dovey stuff at home, but we do plan for events like, you know, going on a weekend trip away.
No, but I think even on something like, you know, having a night in and watching the movie together, or like even having breakfast together, something like that. I know it's not much, but it does make a difference.
Oh, I do. I agree. To be fair, I quite like it when you make me breakfast.
What, when you make me breakfast in bed?
well, not even in bed. It doesn't even have to be in bed. Like, just you will have already started breakfast and you're like making it, and I come down and I just join you, and it's quite nice because you've already started like getting everything together, and it's like we sit together and eat, although like you eat everything in like 2 bites, so I'm there for a little longer than you are. But it is nice that, I guess, the little ways we can show each other we appreciate each other, without being too like quote unquote in your face lovey-dovey in front of his parents. I think it works for us. I guess we're also, I think culturally as well, actually, we wouldn't be lovey-dovey in front of my in-laws.
I mean, obviously,
You wouldn't be lovey-dovey in front of my parents,
No.
and vice versa, right?
No, I think obviously in this country the culture possibly not for Asians, not for Muslims. I think maybe it is, I don't know. So I think in this country, or in this country's culture where non-Muslims, it's quite common to be, show this, like,
Affection, yeah.
Kissing in public maybe, or kissing around the parents. They don't really mind it. Even sitting together, but for us that might be really inappropriate, where you wouldn't kiss in front of your parents. That's just not, that's embarrassing.
That's awkward.
That would be awkward and embarrassing for us. Now, not to say, I'm not saying that the culture of the non-Muslims in this country is wrong, but for us this is not acceptable. Right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't.
You choose not to do it.
I'm not. Yeah,
I don't know what would happen. What would happen if we did kiss?
No, but I think I think it'd be.
Do you think they would say something?
They wouldn't, but I know they would find it extremely inappropriate for us to do that.
They would find it really awkward.
Not awkward. I think it would be inappropriate for us to do that.
But is it inappropriate? We are married. Is it really wrong for us to want to kiss each other in front of others?
No.
I guess because we're in a like the cultural thing, right?
I think it is inappropriate.
Do you actually?
Yeah.
You see, this I feel like is a whole subject on its own, because
true.
there's a lot that we can unearth with this whole PDA topic. So maybe that's something we could talk about in another episode. But do you think we've covered the honeymoon phase? I mean,
we've veered off topic.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I did say that this would happen. It's quite normal that we're gonna like untangle all of these things, and a lot of other things will come out of it. So like actually talking about PDA in our culture, in our religion, is something that we should maybe talk about in another podcast. Then we've got also, like, on a more broader term, I would love to talk more about actually living with the in-laws, because I think today we kind of focused a little bit more on the fact that obviously we can't be more like lovey-dovey together, but there's many positives as well. So before we end the video, let's just ask the question: are we still in the honeymoon phase? Are we in it currently?
I am very much in the honeymoon phase.
I think because we just recently also celebrated our 3rd year anniversary. I am too. So yeah, I think for now we're actually quite content. Alhamdulillah, we are forever grateful, and we're always trying to work hard on our relationship. So I think when we do feel like this, and we do feel happy and content with one another, we should celebrate those little successes, because it's so easy to have a relationship breakdown or have issues with one another. So alhamdulillah, we're doing really well. And yeah, I think for now that's the end of this video. You can definitely follow us on Instagram and Twitter at smalltlkpod, and let us know what you'd like to see in upcoming podcast episodes. We've got a lot of ideas and a lot of topics we want to discuss, but perhaps there's something more pressing that you'd like us to talk about. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we shall see you in the next one.